All right, hi everyone. Welcome to this tutorial. I've actually added a little bit of functionality to the one that I showed on Discord. And hopefully that gives us a bit more time. I thought maybe the other one might be a bit quick. Um, and so what I've done is I've built a clock using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We'll go through the HTML and CSS first, and then you'll have a good idea of kind of where I was with the original one. And then we'll just have a look at how we could make the clock itself working in JavaScript. So I'm an hour behind you. So for me, it's just gone past 2 o'clock. That's why it's saying that it's 2 o'clock there. But let's hop out of here and let's get started on coding. All right, so I have a clock. And I'm going to set it to have a width of 300 pixels and a height of 300 pixels. And I'm going to add a border radius to that of 50% so that it'll be a circle. We can't see it just yet. Let me add a border and a border of 10 pixels solid. Grab this color. Right, so there we've made a circle. So we've set it to have a width of 300 pixels, a height of 300 pixels, the border radius. So if I didn't have that, you can see it would just give me a square. By default, that's the shape of elements. And so I just round out that border to make it a circle. The next thing I'll need to do is I just need to add a position relative here, because I'm going to be absolute positioning elements on the page. So to do that, I'm going to just create the hands for the clock. So I've got a div class of hour hand. A minute hand, and a second hand, and then I've just got another div here that I'm calling dot. It's a little dot in the center of the page. Okay. So now I need to add those to the page. So I'm just going to create a class for this actually, as just to combine the styling, and let's call it hand. Okay. And by default, I'll set the height to be 150 pixels. I'm going to give it a width of 6 pixels. And let me just set it to absolute, position absolute. And let me actually set a background as well. And I'll set that to be black. There I can see my items there. Those are my hands. And I need to move them to the center of the page. Now, because I know that the width is 6 pixels, you can see if I go up, you see if I go left 50%, I don't know if it's easy for you to spot, but it's not actually, it's because this element is taking up 6 pixel width. Actually setting it to left of 50% means that it starts on that edge there, and then it adds on those 6 pixels. So I actually need to take into account the fact that I have a width on this hand. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to be 147 pixels off the left. And what that means is that it will have 3 pixels on the one half of the circle and 3 pixels on the other. Hope that that's making sense. I had to get my head around that as well. And next I need to say transform origin and bottom. And now the reason why I need to do that is so that I can rotate this. So let me just show you how I rotate it. So it's transform, rotate, and I can say 90 degrees. Oh. And you can see that it rotates at 90 degrees. Now, if I didn't have that, it doesn't, it needs to know where it needs to base the rotation from. And so I transform it to say wherever the bottom was. So there you can see the bottom. I could say top. You can see it rotates based on the top. So it changes 90 degrees from the top of that element, right? So I want the bottom. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the rotation of this thing, and I'm just going to move it around the page. I want to quickly set the hour hand, and I'm going to make that hour hand a bit shorter. And I'm going to give that a height of 100 pixels. And now I need to change the top, and I need to bring it down a bit. So I'm going to add top of 50 pixels. Just so we can see it, I'm going to rotate, transform, rotate, say 45 degrees. Oh, whoops, that's the same as the other one. So that you can see it now exists differently. And I'm going to just change the color as well. So I'm just going to add a background blue. And then on the second hand, I want it to be red. So I'm going to add that. So now I've added a red there, and I'll just so we can see it. Okay, so there we can see our 3 hands. I need to make this dot so that you don't get that. Right now, it looks a little messy there. So I'm just going to add a little dot on top of that. And to do that, again, it's going to be a thing of using position absolute. Add, well, let me set a width first here. So I'm going to have a width of 20 pixels, a height of 20 pixels. And again, I'm going to use this border radius of 50% to make a circle, and I'll add a background of black. So there's my dot there. Now I just need to position it where I want it to go. And again, because of the 300 pixels, I want it, so at 150 pixels, I want 10 pixels of this dot on the left and 10 pixels of the dot on the right. And let me just group things together a bit neater. I want a left of 140 pixels. So that now puts it in the middle of the page. And I'm going to add a top of 50%. which doesn't quite give me what I want. And to correct that, so that I can make sure that it's not, again, it's that 50% issue. That anyway, I'll quickly show you. Use transform, translate y, and I'm going to say minus 50%. And that now places my dot in the middle of the circle. All right, so now we have the second hand, the minute hand, and the hour hand. Now I can add an animation to these. So for the second hand, I could add an animation. All right, I'll call it second hand, and every 60 seconds, it should rotate once. So that's every 60 seconds, and I'm going to add linear infinite, and then I will add my animation here. So I'll say keyframes, second hand. And let me just remove these transform rotate here. And then I'll now say that at 100%, I want it to rotate. And what's nice is I can use something called one turn. And so now you can see that the second hand will go around and rotate. So it will join back up there at 60 seconds. Okay. That's kind of what I was mostly showing you in that original video. But I mean, that's only taken us 13 minutes. So let's have a look and see how we might be able to make this clock using JavaScript. So I'm going to just switch off the keyframes there. And let's start working in JavaScript. So the first thing that we need to know is that we can get the time from the browser. So what I can say is I can create a time variable here, and I use new date, and I'll just console log that to see what that is. There it gives me the time and a date and other information as well. I can use methods on this new time date object here. So I can say that I want to get hours. Okay, run that. And it says 14. So yeah, it's 2 o'clock where I am. So that's correct. I could get minutes. And yep, it's 1:15. And I can get seconds. No idea what that is. Okay, 23 seconds. Great. So that's information that I can get, and then I can use that to be able to set where these hands should go. Before I carry on, what I'd like to do is just select these elements. So I'm going to have an hour hand, zoom in a little bit more for you. Hopefully that's a bit better for everyone. A minute hand and a second hand. And let's just change these names. Okay, so now I've selected those elements on the page. Now I'm going to create variables based on this where I use my methods to be able to get different things. So I'm going to have hours, and I'm going to set them to have time. That's the hours, right? And if I just console log that, it's the same thing as what I had earlier. Right there, it says 14, just as we had said. There we go. And then let's have minutes, seconds. Now, the reason I've used let is because I'm going to change these variables. And so I'm not going to continually check every second to see what the new time is. I'm just going to base it on when the page is loaded, and I'm just going to use my own JavaScript to update the variables, to update these variables. Okay. So let's have a look at how we can rotate the hand based on the time. So we have to use a little bit of maths, which is not everyone's favorite thing, but hopefully it gives you some ideas. So let's have, I'm going to say our degree, and let's actually start with the minute because that's a little bit of an easier one. So there's 60 minutes in an hour, and there's 360 degrees in a circle. So we know that 360 over 6 is 360 over 60 is 6. Okay, so 360 divided by 6 equals 6, right? 360 divided by 6 equals 6. Okay, so we know that we can times whatever the hours variable is by, sorry, not the hours, the minutes. I can times them by 6. And then let me rotate the minute hand. So I'll say, here it's my minute hand variable. And I'll say style.rotate equals, and I'm going to say that I want it to, sorry, style.transform, obviously. Rotate, and I want it to rotate value of minute degree, and then I just say deg, so that it knows that it needs to be a degree. And so now it's moved itself to just there, which is about 20 minutes, which is the right amount of rotation. So we got the minute hand to move to the right place. We can do the same with the second hand. So this time we'll just change this to second degree. Sounds like second degree murder. Yeah. Let's go with seconds. Again, 60 seconds in a minute, so we can times it by 6 to get where it should move. And let me change this to the second hand. Make sure that's all correct. Great. And then for the hours, it's slightly more complicated. So here, say hour degree equals hours times 30. And because I want to be able to calculate because the degrees, there's like, if you between say 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, you want to be say halfway between 3 and 4 when based on the minutes. So we don't just want that big jump. So we wanted to kind of show when the minutes, like the amount of minutes. Anyway, we need to add the minutes is what I'm trying to say. And so we can add minutes. Sorry, it is minutes divided by 2. And then we'll do the same. And that is our hand. And it needs to change by our degree. I'm not spotting why it's... Okay. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need this to be changing every second. And so what we need to do is we need to create a function which runs every second. And I'll show you how to do that. We have a function, and I'll call it move time. And it is going to run every second. So I'm just console.log hi. And to do that, to run a function every second, what we can do is we can set interval. We'll call the function move time. And we want it to run for every second. So it's written in milliseconds. So we say 1,000. So now if we look in the console, it's just logging out hi every second. Okay. But that's not what we wanted to do. What we wanted to do is we wanted to change the value of seconds. So to do that, we can say that we want seconds to increase by 1. So the value of this, so we have this variable called seconds here. The reason why it's giving me those issues is because of this. It's get minutes, get seconds. Okay. Finally spotted where the error was. Okay, so that looks a bit better there. So that's 224. That looks right. Okay. But now I want this move time to increase every second. So I'm just going to log out seconds and we can have a look. So save that, run. So you can see now in the console that it's logging out a new value for seconds every second. And now we can say that if seconds gets to 59 seconds, then we want minutes to change to 1, and we want seconds to equal 0. Okay, and then I'll just console log minutes for you there. Okay, so we're going to get rid of the console log for seconds so it doesn't confuse us. Clear that. That's just logging now 26. Might have to wait a little while. Eventually it'll change to 27. Okay. As soon as it hits that 59 seconds, and then it'll change. Okay, we're in a new minute. Then we can also change it. Okay, now I'm breaking the code while I'm typing. Okay. I'll say if minutes gets to 60 minutes, then hours, I think that should be 60. That's right, that's 60. Well, I think in testing it was 59, so let's go. Sorry. And then we're going to add 1 hour on, and we'll set the minutes to be back to 0 again. So the minute counter will start back at 0. And so now we have the values changing, but we don't have it rotating on the page. So we just need to bring this maths that we did and place it inside of this function. I can see now that when it gets to 12 o'clock, when it gets to 12, so it's in like 60 seconds have gone, then it changes and moves it to the next minute. The next thing that I didn't do in the HTML and CSS section was I didn't put the 12, 3 and 3, 6 and 9 on. So let me quickly do that. So here we have div, let's call it 12. 3, 6, 9. And I want the Times New Roman, so I'm just going to set my font family to be Open Sans Vidana sans serif. And now I need to absolute position these. So let's go here, set 12 to be position absolute. Now again, because the clock has position relative, it's taking its position based on the clock. And I need to add a left of 50%. And just to bring it back in line, there I can use transform, translate x minus 50%. You can see now that just brings it into line there. And I'll just add a top of 10 pixels just to bring it off the edge. And now I can do similar things. Let me do 6 next, which is going to be pretty much the same as that, except that instead of the top of 10 pixels, I actually want it off the bottom by 10 pixels. So there you can see the 6. The 6 is hidden and it's half past. So there we go. That's right. And great. And then I need to do 3. And that now has a top of 50%. I need to translate because now I'm translating Y. So it needs to translate Y. And it needs to have a right of 10 pixels. So it's kicking off 10 pixels from the right. That's not correct. It's in the wrong place. So it shouldn't have the bottom. That's causing problems. And then I can just add the transform, translate y minus 50%. Okay. And now the next side is the 9. So I need to do the same as that. And that now has a left of 10 pixels. So there we go. We now have a working clock that seems to keep the right time and using JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. Is there any questions? Is it possible to create a clock using grid? So the main dynamic of this clock is that it needs to rotate around. So you could rotate different things, I guess. Yeah, I'm struggling to see in my mind's eye how grids would help with that. Grids is better for things like like laying out a list of product items in like a products page or something like that, or kind of bigger layout. But yeah, if you did a digital clock, you could use grids. But this version that I've made here relies quite heavily on position absolutes and the transform rotation. But yeah, if you made a digital clock, you could definitely use grids there to kind of make your outline of your thing. I mean, I can try it quick. Going rogue here. I mean, I'm not going to be able to make the whole thing fast, but maybe you have the clock with a background of, say, and set that to display grid, and the hours, minutes, and seconds had, say, something like let's add a height of 50 pixels and a border 1px dashed green, and set that to grid templates, columns, one file, like that. And we can just add something like that. And maybe set this to have a max width of 600 pixels. So maybe make that like nice and chunky, like this kind of like old school, I don't know, something like that. And then you could add in the numbers there based on kind of what you get back from the I can do that quick actually. It won't take me too long. And it's called hours, minutes, seconds. Oh, whoops, wrong name. Our container. Sorry, on the fly, so. For the life of me, I can't see why it's not working. Hours, minutes, seconds. Anyone who can spot the issue is welcome to chime in. There it's showing up. Oh, you know what it is? It's because the text is black. Yep, there we go. Text color. Thank you. And let's make it green. And we'll just add family of Korea. What's it? Let's go. I don't need a height anymore. There you go. There's kind of like a digital clock using grids. I'm not going to do the updating, but it would be the same logic as what we saw earlier. All right. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you. All right. I think if there's no more questions, then it's literally time to wrap up. I hope that that's been useful and interesting and starting to see some techniques and different things. I'll post the video and the code as well. I'll send the link to the code pen. I'll send the link to both code pens if you're interested, and then you can take a look and play around with those. All right, everyone. Hope you'll have a nice day and chat soon.